Sup? This is once again handmade puppet axolotl SCB, who again picked movies thinking they were one thing but somehow ended up being something completely different. With that, let's start with the most confusing one, which was Sooryavanshi. The reason this is so confusing is because the first 90% of the film is played dramatically. Then there's really not any humor that would lead one to believe that it's a comedic film. It even shows actual news footage of the events that they are talking about. I'll put a few of the clippings here, since I can't really say what I'm referring to because of technical reasons. I, for one, welcome our technical overlords and share in their nonsensical and overbearing—
What is this?
Of all the timelines, this is clearly the darkest, which is why I propose we commit to being evil. I made us all black goatees out of felt. I suggest you put them on until you're able to grow your own. From now on, I'm Evil Abed.
But it is loosely based on a real officer, Vishwas Patil, who was part of the operation to stop Bombay or Mumbai from another attack. I can't really speak to the religious aspects of this film, but it feels weirdly heavy-handed, yet at the same time tries to be super inclusive? I don't know. Drop a comment below if you have thoughts. The gist of the movie is that there's one particular group attacking different places in India, and suddenly this group goes on this weird silent hiatus for about 13 years before they plan one last big event. I also really didn't like how they portrayed the relationship between Sooryavanshi and Riya because it seems pretty dysfunctional and almost makes her look like the bad person in the situation because she gets upset when her own kiddo ends up being on the receiving end of shrapnel but luckily survives. Somehow we're supposed to feel bad for the main guy because the justification is that he's always serving the greater good. And she's silly for wanting her family to stay out of the literal line of fire.
How can this be for the greater good? Shut it!
But the main thing happening is that the officers or agents are working to try and prevent the big kaboom that is supposed to happen in Mumbai. That's when this movie gets really confusing because out of seemingly nowhere, this comedy cop duo jumps in to help. All of a sudden it feels like the three Amigos.
Great! You killed the invisible swordsman!
Dead, all right.
How was I supposed to know where he was?
You were supposed to fire up.
We both fired up.
It's like living with a 6-year-old.
How do we go from nearly 2 hours of drama to what feels like a comedy trio? You can't switch— do all?
You have to, don't do all.
Well, anyways, of course it ends with a song, and the subtitles in this one talk about how we are all Indians regardless of the faith that we belong to. Overall, the movie is okay if you're into this kind of thing. It has some decent chase scenes. I mean, it's alright. I don't plan on watching it again. Plus, not enough mustaches. Or sweater vests. We'll come back to that. Right out of the gate, we are provided with an explanation of how thieves and other ne'er-do-wells would imitate government workers for nefarious means, especially after India gained independence from Great Britain. The movie is based on the 1987 Opera House heist in Bombay, so prepare yourself for sweater vests, lots of brown decor, and many, many mustaches. According to Wikipedia, in real life, this case has remained unsolved. The agency focused on in this movie is the CBI, or Central Bureau of Investigation. Near the start of the film, we see a house raid on one of the corrupt ministers, and the agents seem to be a little too aware of where they're hiding the goods, which should be a major hint that these are not the agents you're looking for. I will say I was confused because between the subtitles, English dub, and labels in the film, Bombay and Mumbai are used interchangeably, and the city name was changed around 1995 to Mumbai. And the movie takes place in 1987? What?
You have to, don't do all.
The other clue that the dudes are fake and not real agents is that after the break-in, they watch the papers to make sure that they are not reported there. Why? Because it's a bit incriminating to go to the authorities to take back something that you shouldn't have stolen in the first place.
You're trying to kidnap what I've rightfully stolen.
The thieves split up, going their separate ways, and agree to meet up in 3 months' time. As Special 26 continues, we see the celebration of Republic Day, or India's independence, and pan over the immortal soldier flame by India's gate that honors the martyrs of the Indian Armed Forces of Independent India. At least that's what Wikipedia says, so Annie Oxley do. Mustache and sweater vests abound. Totally love that in this movie. I mean, look at that. Mustache, 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 mustache. Sadly though, our sweater vest wearing Ajay loses the sweater vest and is attracted to the neighbor across the way. And at first I was creeped out because I thought it was difficult to determine her age, but she's apparently a teacher and actually set up to marry someone else. Leaving that to your discretion. As the thieves catch back and forth, they discuss what the next heist should be.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Halloween heist!
Erstwhile, in another part of India, we run across a real agent from the CBI, Wasim. Along with being cool enough to also pull off the sweater vest, he has some dope-ass moves and hunts down this dude that jumps from the roof before falling off onto the top of a car. He also gets eyebrow points because he's got a look. Wasim meets up with Ranveer Singh from the New Delhi police that was part of the home raid of the minister and uses his knowledge to try and track down the fake CBI agents. As they're trying to track them down, the thieves are actually almost caught in the middle of their next heist, quickly switching to the revenue service as the real CBI somehow are there at the same time. Ajay and PK decide that they must go out with one last heist, and they're calling it quits.
So I bribed them. I told them that if we pulled this off, I would do all of their paperwork. And since you're doing all my paperwork...
I'm impressed, Peralta.
Between the information from Ranveer and the other sources, the CBI track down PK and tap his phone. And honestly, points for how smooth the agent is when he manages to put the trace in the dude's phone in front of him. That is some smooth moves. Hello, Auto Telephone here at your service, trying to see what's going on with your phone. Oh, you say you don't hear that noise in there? Here, let me just fix that for you. Fixed. Still an hour left, and Ajay explains the heist to PK, including putting an ad in the paper assuring him that they will not be suspicious, even though the real CBI has them on their radar.
Don't be suspicious, don't be suspicious, don't be suspicious, don't be suspicious.
Long story short, it's another Italian job switcheroo, where you think someone is someone else, who's helping this other person, who's secretly a llama, who's secretly a lamb chop, and of course the plan that Wasim was trying to counter was the fake out. So it was a super heist.
Let's write an algorithm based on 2 heist movies I slept through and use it to automate a joyless process you call art?
Everyone goes off and lives their lives, and we see Ajay and PK at a cricket match on TV, showing us that no one will ever have to deal with consequences if you play the game right. Let the mustaches continue as we then end on our last movie in the video, Triple R. At first glance, oh, maybe this is like an action movie like Triple X. No, but definitely worth a watch. It's a 3-hour movie about the greatest bromance ever told in 1920 prior to India independence. Bro. What does Triple R stand for? It stands for Rise, Roar, Revolt. Again, there is of course a disclaimer at the beginning that the animals are all CGI and the attitudes are representative of the attitudes at that time. Basically, they do not pull any punches in their portrayal of how harsh the British were. Sadly, but expectedly, I can't play the absolute banger that plays at the start of the film. We start off in the jungle where the general's wife pays a couple rupees to keep a villager's daughter so she can sing for her whenever she wants. I say pay, but we really know that that means due to a language barrier that Molly's mother did not understand what was occurring at first. When she does, however, she throws herself in front of the car to save her daughter, and when one of the soldiers goes to use his weapon, the general explains that the bullet is worth more than her life. I wasn't kidding when I said that this film shows their clear, unfettered opinion of the British. Ramu Raju is an Indian in the British Army, often called a traitor. Obviously, Beam is on a mission to save Molly and take her back to the village in the jungle. The British don't like anyone standing up to them or threatening to them, so they have a soldier try and hunt Beam down and take him out. Ramu volunteers, and thus the bromance is born, and they work together to save a young lad from dying in the middle of an oil fire. Both characters have godlike abilities and endurance. During the rescue, in the midst of the explosions and action, Ramu is seen grabbing a flag with the words Vande Mataram, the national song of India. Apologies for pronunciation, tried my best. They become best buds, and Ramu even helps Beam with the language barrier so he can get closer to Jenny. He's even invited to a party where there's a dance-off between all the men, and when it's only Beam and Ramu left, Ramu lets him win so he looks good in front of Jenny. Wink! But don't worry, Ramu has a girl worth fighting for named Sita back in the village where we find out that Ramu has joined the British Army so he could fulfill a promise he made to his father that he would get a pew-pew for each villager. In doing so, the villagers would be able to fight back against the British. And while the audience learns of this, Beam learns it later in the film. In order to keep his ruse up to destroy the British from the inside, Ramu has to arrest Beam when he tries to save Molly, and it's heartbreak for this bromance because Ramu can't tell him of his true plans. Not yet anyways. When the British decide to unalive Beam, Ramu devises a plan that will help Beam, Molly, and himself escape, get pew-pews for everyone in the village, and have a great ending to the story! However, the execution of the plan goes awry, and while Beam and Molly manage to escape the village, Ramu is now the hunkiest mustache in the British prison. After Beam learns about Ramu's true intention, he decides to go back for his bro. Never leave a bro behind! Bro! Bro! I'll never let go, Jack! Wrong movie, right? Ramu swears on Mother Godavari that he will help his countrymen fight and save India. We see symbolism from both Mother Godavari and Ganesh. Anyways, I applaud the film for showing that men who cry aren't weak. Ramu and Beam are two pretty powerful dudes with mad skills. After a major fight against the British end, the credits play over a song that plays tribute to those who helped with Indian independence, such as Bhagat Singh. So overall, Sooryavanshi is a meh movie. Special 26 was more enjoyable, but my favorite of this trio was the movie Triple R. Thanks for making it this far. Toodles!
I am the god Ganesh! This wedding angers me! All will die unless it is stopped!
Oh God.
Please, listen to me!
तुम गणेश नहीं हो, गणेश में दंगा नहीं है।